Good day to everyone. It is February 6th, 2025, and welcome to an Oracle Apex Office Hours. I'm your host, Jason Haynes. I'm a Principal Product Manager representing North America, sometimes Latin and South America. But today, we are here to talk about what's new in Apex 24.2, and this is part 4 of a 4-part series. But first, we're going to have some announcements and quick updates. If you've been watching the last 3 episodes, you've seen some of these, some new ones. Just a reminder about Oracle Apex blog posts for Apex 24.2 and the specific new features that you may be interested in. You can hit this URL, blogs.oracle.com/apex, to learn more. There's a bunch of good stuff in here. We try to document a lot of our new big marquee features via blog. Videos are coming, and we just got a lot of great information that's even published in our documentation. One of the new things today is what's new in Oracle Apex 24.2 for Oracle Fusion Cloud applications. So we have a new technical paper explaining how to extend Oracle Fusion Cloud Application Suite using Oracle Apex. So if you want to grab this screenshot, take a picture with your phone or what have you, apex.oracle.com/go/fusion-technical-paper. So that's going to have a lot of great information if you're using Fusion in any capacity or know customers other than yourself that are using Fusion and would like to extend that functionality with Apex. There are some special MOS notes, which is known as My Oracle Support. One on Manage OAuth token expiry with the URL you see there, OAuth note, and remove the connection between Fusion and Apex via that particular short link, remove-connection-note. So give you a moment, take a screenshot of that if that is of interest to you. Take a look at those, and good luck in learning what applies to your needs. Next, this is the 4-part series. This is the end of it. This is the last one on this series of Apex 24.2 new features. On January 16th, we started with vector search and all the good AI features that were packed into Apex 24.2 or improved upon. You can see a few of the other episodes, including Oracle Fusion Cloud Applications and REST source enhancements, select many improvements, and so much more good stuff in the last few. Session number 3 should be available and posted in the next week or so. Just bear in mind that we're trying to do this officially for Apex on the whole team, and we do have to go through legal review and even some edits sometimes with some of these videos that are recorded. So that's why there may be a week or so delay to get all this in the queue and available on our website to watch later. But today we're talking about JSON sources. And I know it's a little bit funny to hear, but my name is Jason. So every time I hear someone say the word JSON, it always seems to trigger me in a little bit awkward ways. So bear with me here. It's just what it is. I got to live with it. For the latest Apex Office Hours, again, there's a URL. You probably got here by the email, but if you didn't know, you can go to apex.oracle.com/office hours and subscribe to the service or take a look at what's coming. There's also various past recordings that are organized by playlists available from that URL. Next, we're talking about the remaining upcoming in-person conferences. In Barcelona, Madrid, Lisbon, and Malaga, we have the Oracle Database 23 AI and Apex Iberian Tour. So if you're over in that area in the next week or so, you're going to be able to attend one of these particular sessions hosted by somebody from the Apex team here with you, including people from the database team. We have Apex World 2025 in the Netherlands at the end of March, and we have Apex Alpe Adre into April in Croatia. So if you want to learn more, we have a calendar called the apex.oracle.com/go/events page, and it is updated with all the events that we are aware of. You can submit your own community events here, and once approved, if other clients have push notifications enabled, they will receive a notification of that new conference coming up. Now, bear in mind, if you do have questions about Apex at all today, that's great, but please keep the questions utilized in the Q&A feature of Zoom. Do not chat or ask your question in the chat. Please use the Q&A feature. If your question is a little bit deeper or off topic, please use our forum, apex.oracle.com/forum. So here we are. We've already done the previous 3. We're on the number 4, and I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today, Beda Hammerschmidt, Julian Dontcheff, and our very own Carsten Czarski. So from there, I'm going to hand it over to Beda to continue this conversation about the great new features in Apex 23.2, some of it being involved with Database 23 AI, and of course, they're going to be talking about JSON, 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 and I'm just going to be sitting here smiling. Anyway, thank you, Beda. Over to you.
Thank you. All good. Okay. So yeah, thanks a lot for having us. It's an honor, and it seems it's also a big pleasure if I monitor the chat here, a very active audience. That's great. So welcome. My name is Beda. I lead the development org for JSON, and I probably have spoken to some of you over the past years because I do JSON for the past 10, 11 years. And with me, I have Julian Dontcheff from the product management. And we start this off by giving like a brief introduction into a new concept called JSON collections. But first, let's set the context. Like JSON is not a really new feature. We started about 12 years ago and released 12.102 actually. And you might have used some of these features like JSON table or JSON object to generate JSON. So those are really mature features. They were built 10 years ago. And since then, every release has been improved. I'm not listing all the things here, but I just want to point out that 23AI has a lot of really cool features in JSON land. And we're going to look at JSON collections. So big picture wise, what we try to do as our team is to cater to developers. And developers is kind of twofold. There's a lot of developers who want to use JSON as the backend for application development. Think of a MongoDB style developer. So we want to give them all these capabilities of document storage. These people might not even want to write SQL, so they just work with collections and documents, etc. But at the same time, as application developers have new use cases, we want to make it super easy to also use SQL. So it's really this converged database story that we constantly work on. Not going into details, but just highlight that you might have seen this before. If you have some JSON in the database, there are operators like JSON table, which allow you to take some JSON and extract fields and make it look like a table. So if you have a tool like Apex, for example, or you want to do some joins, etc., it's very easy to make JSON look like a table. The opposite is also possible if you have some old relational app and you want to expose some data as in JSON format, for example, to cater to like a REST service. It's also quite easy to just write a SQL query, write some JSON operators, or in this case, constructors in, like JSON curly brace creates an object and square bracket an array, and boom, you got your result in JSON format. So all that's been around for quite a while. That's was all pre-23, but now in 23, you may have seen this slide, the style of the slide, which lists a lot of new things. And these are all just the JSON related things in 23AI. So we have vector support, we have JSON data type. JSON schema is a very powerful feature where we can not only use it to validate things, but also to describe any database object. So if you have a relational table or a type or a view, etc., you can just say, hey, describe me this object using a JSON schema, and then you have something that can be parsed by a machine, for example. But today we're going to focus on collections. And this is a bit of a concept here. So let's compare that to tables. So if you work, or if you're a relational developer, your mental model is a table, and a table consists of rows and columns and data types. And the collection is a different mental model. It's actually the model that document stores has, like MongoDB, for example. And the model is that you have a collection, and inside that collection, you have JSON documents. So the collection is something that is identified by a name. So if you connect with an Oracle schema or a user and you say, I want to work with collection cars or orders, then that uniquely identifies the collection. But inside the collection, you can put any JSON documents inside. There is a way to associate with a schema to restrict it, but the easiest way to think of the collection, it's really a bag of JSON objects that you can throw inside, and then you can find it, and you can delete it or modify it, etc. Now, for each JSON document in that collection, it has an identifier. That's usually a special field inside the JSON. We use the field _ID, and that uniquely identifies that document inside the collection. So there's also a little bit of a key value aspect. If you know the collection and if you know the identifier, then there is at most one document that's inside your database. And what we do is, if you give us a document that has such an _ID field, we will honor it. It can be like a scalar value, but it can also be like a nested value. If you have a composite key, for example, first name, last name, that works. But if you don't give us an ID, then upon insert, an ID will be auto-generated. And it's usually being returned as part of the insert, so you know what ID got associated. But there is a strong association of an ID. So it's a bit more than just a JSON type column. So in a JSON type column, you can also obviously add a JSON document, but we wouldn't modify it. Like, we would not inject a unique ID, and the collection does it. That's basically it. So this ID can then be used for like simple CRUD operations. So you can puts and gets and updates. And this whole idea of the collection is that it's a simpler API for basic database operation. So that's the background. This explains the collection. And if we look then how we can work with JSON in Oracle database, there's basically two fundamental ways. One is where you store JSON in a column or in the database. And the other one is where you map JSON to relational columns. So your JSON is more virtual. So this has also been around for quite a while. And this is implicitly two ways of implementing a collection. So you can think of, well, there is this concept of a collection. It allows me these simple APIs. But then I can choose whether I use a JSON collection table. This one is new in 23 AI. Or if I use a JSON relational duality view. So both implement this JSON collection pattern. There's also a JSON collection view, but it's basically a non-updatable one. So if you have a view that is updatable, we call that a JSON relational duality view. If the view is not updatable, we just call it a JSON collection view. Both are compatible. So this is quite important. Like they look the same to someone on the outside. So for an application developer, they might not even be able to tell whether a collection is a duality view or a JSON collection table where data is stored persistently. So how do I now, let's get a bit technical. How do I create such a collection table? Well, it's a special syntax on the create table statement. You basically say JSON collection table, create JSON collection table, and you give it a table name. So you can say foo or bar or my orders, etc. And this will create a special table. It's a regular table, so you can do anything with this table. You can select it, insert it, etc. But you don't have to specify the columns or the data type. So there's only one column. It's called data, and it's always called data. You cannot change it. And you can, if you then insert something into this data column, we will look if the object has first of all, it has to be like a JSON object, and it has to have an ID. Otherwise, we will add one. So everything that is inside a JSON collection table, if you do a query, will have this unique underscore ID value. There is also the option to have an e-tag similar to duality views for optimistic concurrency control. So this allows us to reject an update if it would overwrite someone else, or if someone else did an update in between and you would overwrite this change, then with that e-tag mechanism, we could reject it. This is an example of a duality view. I'm not going into detail here. This would take way too much time, but you see it's another way to define a JSON object based on relational tables. So here we use GraphQL. We're selecting something from the attendee relational table, etc. And we pick a relational column for the ID. This also yields us this document, but this is now a virtual document, meaning we don't store it this way. It's being mapped to relational tables, but we can still update it on the JSON side, and the update will then trigger updates to the underlying relational tables. So these are the two ways I can store data in a table using the JSON collection table, or I can map it to duality views. So if we look at this again, you've seen this before. This is actually quite similar to what's called in Java interface and implementation. So those of you that have coded in Java know that there's this concept of an interface, and the interface defines how you interact with something. So two people could say, well, we want to work together, and they define an interface which one person is calling and the other person is implementing. And you could really think of the JSON collection as a concept of an interface, and you can then implement this using a collection table or a duality views. And even better, you can change that implementation. So during an application development process, you might say, well, I don't know initially all my fields, etc. So I start doing it storing JSON. But once my application is stable and I am able to really specify a schema for it, you could change this to a JSON relational duality view without your application having to be changed. Just the implementation changes. We even have tools for this migration. And with this, I hand it over to my colleague, Julian, who will demonstrate how this works.
Thank you very much, Beda. All right, I hope you can see my screen. I have here an autonomous JSON database running in Frankfurt. And I'm going to use SQL Developer Web. So from Database Actions, I'm going to select SQL. And here I have the interface. So in the beginning of the presentation that Beda just showed you, he had some examples about movies. So let us first create a JSON collection table and let's call it movies. So as if you remember, the syntax is create a JSON collection table, movies. It's important probably here to note that if you'd like to drop it, the right syntax is not drop JSON collection table, but it's just drop table. So here we have the table being created, right? So now let's describe movies and see what we have. As Beda mentioned, you have only one column, and the column will be JSON data type called data. Here it is. So we have the E tag, we have the res ID, and we have the data.
But it should only show data, actually. Res ID and EDAC should
yes,
be
they shouldn't be shown.
And it's shown there, yes.
Correct, yes. So let us insert one document into the collection. And let's make it like that. Let's insert a movie called Inside Out Part 2. We have the year, we have the genres, and we have the pilot. So it's a simple insert. We're inserting one document. You can think of inserting one row. One row inserted. Okay, let's commit. And once we do that, we'll move to SQL, we'll move to Mongo Compass. And for Mongo Compass, what we're going to do, we're going to insert some data, but let's first see what we have at the moment in movies. Let us run a simple select. So select data from movies. And as you can see, we have the one row. So we only inserted one document. So we'll have one document. Here is the document. And if we would like to see, for example, the title and the year of the movie, we can do it the following way. We can specifically select only data.title and data.year if we're curious only about the title of the movie and the year of the movie. Here it is. So the title is Inside Out Part 2 and the year is 25. Now, we'll next move to MongoDB Compass, and we'll be using the Mongo API to load some data. And let me know if you can see Mongo Compass. I guess you can see it here, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let me refresh so I see the movies collection here. Here it is. And at the moment, in the movies collection, I have only one document. So if you have not seen how MongoDB Compass looks like, it's a tool which you can compare somehow with SQL Developer. Very similar, that's the Mongo client tool. And from here, we can insert data, we can modify data. So let us insert a few hundred movies into this collection. And I choose add data. I have the file of few hundred movies in my laptop. So I'm going to import a JSON file. So some data. Movies, this is the right one. So you have the option to stop on errors, but I'm pretty confident that there will be no errors. So we are importing 225 documents. So 225 movies are being imported into the collection. As you can see here, 1 out of 20, they appear on every single page. So now let us, for example, try to see how you can run queries using a simple MongoDB query. So let us try to find all the movies with price less than $4. And we have to type the query here. So the way how you do it is that you type the field price, and then LT is like little, 4, so not 5, 4. And we can see that we have 24 movies with price less than $4. If you want to do something similar, for example, if you want to find all movies that have the word father in the title, then you simply run the command title, and then it's in slashes you put father. It's not like in Oracle where you use percentage, but you use slashes. So clicking on find, we're filtering and we're having 2 movies which have the word father in the title. That's Godfather Part 2 and The Godfather. And going to the end of this demo, let us show how a SQL analytical query can be run against the collection. So we're going to select the year and count the star from all the movies and group by the year. So let us do it in SQL Developer Web here. So select year, count star from movies, group by year, and we order also by the year in descending order. As you can see here, we have several movies from 2016, but only one from 2017. If we want to flatten the array values, then we can run the following command. Select title from movies, and then we are using the actor name. So you have a title, and for the movies, you have the actor. So we're flattening the results set. So for Raiders of the Lost Ark, we have 3 actors. For the movie Pianist, we have 3 actors, and so on. Back to the Future, 3 actors, and so on, and so on, and so on. And if you would like also to pivot the data and generate new SQL, you can run it the following way with unique actors. Let me increase it. So it's a little bit longer select statement, but what we are doing here, we are pivoting the data. So we're generating new JSON data. And here we have the final result. So you can see that Russell Crowe is in the movies Gladiator, Beautiful Mind, and LA Confidential. Robert De Niro is in those movies, 4 or 5 movies, and so on and so on. So basically, that is a way how you can easily also, using SQL, you can generate a new JSON document. And I think with this I will stop, and I'll hand over to, not to Beda probably, I guess, to
Carsten.
To Carsten, yes. Carsten, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. You have learned a lot about JSON technology in the database, right? Some might ask themselves, is this really Apex? Oh yes, it is, right? And I will now make the connection to Apex 24.2, right? Because what you have seen is JSON Beda at the beginning. Beda introduced where JSON in the database started. It was back in the days of Oracle 12c. And then there was a focus on the latest developments in database 23 AI. The core thing is that the Oracle database can store JSON and can process JSON very well. And when I look into my experience over the last few months and years, I can really see that customers, you guys, right, at conferences, I more and more see that customers are using JSON columns, or in the future, JSON collection tables, as parts of their application. And what Julian showed with MongoDB is that somebody else, a third party, might be uploading JSON content to our database. And then you have all the JSON documents there. You could offer SQL queries, right, on the command prompt, but in Apex, we want to do different, right? In Apex, we want to build cool applications based on that data. So assume we had somebody uploaded JSON documents into our database as a collection table, right? And I did a little bit of preparation. So what Julian did showed live, I did that in the as a preparation. So I created a JSON collection table, right, and uploaded it with some JSON documents. And the JSON documents, we can also have a look how these look like. It's movies call. So let's start from movies call. I think the first 2 should be enough, right? And here we can see our JSON, right, with the movie and all the stuff you've seen before. So now it's time to build some Apex application on this, right? So, and the first thing, and this is the goal of the 24.2 feature, was that we want to enable the Apex way of doing things for such JSON data as well. Right, you know that you can do it with relational stuff. But what if you have a collection of JSON documents? Of course, in 24.1, you can craft your own processing logic, right? And convert the JSON into relational tables and then continue using normal Apex stuff. But we might not even want to do that. It might be hard, it might be complex, it might take time. We want to do something right now on the JSON. So, and for that, we would start with creating a JSON source. So we have duality views, which is a new data source type, especially for duality views. And we have JSON sources. And JSON sources, here is the good news for everybody who's not on a 23 AI yet. JSON source can be of two flavors, right? We have JSON collection tables. That's what you've seen so far, right? But, and this option, table with JSON columns, is also available on 19c, right? On 19c, you will have the JSON source. You will just have only that option. And here is the even better stuff. The functionality is almost the same, right? It's as easy with a table with JSON columns type as with a JSON collection table type, right? This is a bit more modern from the database point of view. This also works on 19c. You can build the same cool apps with both, right? So this is our movies collection source. Let me go with the JSON collection table to stay in our scenario here, right? And now let me try to pick my movies collection. And if I just had a JSON schema which describes that JSON data, I could upload it here, and then Apex would use that. Yeah, would use that for what? Well, we are working with JSON, right? And I promised you will be able to create Apex charts, interactive report, all that stuff directly on JSON documents. So what do we need for this? What does every Apex component need? A report, a form, a chart. It needs columns, right? That's how Apex works, right? A report wants to have columns, and normally it gets the columns from the SQL query. So what do we need to do? We need to compute a data profile, and fans of REST data sources might have seen that before, right? It's the same technology we are using for REST data sources when it's about describing the JSON response so that we are able to build components based on that. And we're using the same thing for our JSON sources, right? And some stuff we introduced back with 24.1 now comes in very handy, because with 24.1 we introduced nested JSON structures, so very useful. And it already, so the ID column is already marked as primary key, and we also have array columns for the stars, for the starring, and for the genre. So let me mark those, the position, as primary key as well, because Apex forms want to have a primary key. And there we go. We have our JSON source created. You can review your stuff here. As every shared component, publish, subscribe works, right? And the data profile can be reviewed and changed over here, right? So you can add new derived columns, you can adjust that, you can tweak that as you are known or as you are used to it for REST data sources. It's the very same thing, right? And there is also no difference in the way how it works. Okay, now we have the data source. Let me now, let's start with a simple example. Julian was nicely showing how to search for movies with a price less than whatever. And in Apex, we have interactive reports. We don't want to fiddle with SQL anymore. So we get all our columns from the data profile here. We could, and some people might remember office hours for the last release, where we have the nested structures. For now, I wouldn't use that. And this is a lot of columns. Let me clean up a tiny bit, right? So let me, I think that is fine. I think this is enough for now. Right, okay. Let's see what we get. So there is the plot. Yeah, so it's not arranged very nicely. So just get that a bit nicer, right? The ID can go, I can even hide the ID, who wants that, right? And let me put the plot to the right. So yeah, that looks already better. So we want to have movies with a specific price. No, the column heading dropdown is not the right thing. We use interactive report filter. price is less than, and what was it? 5, right? And there are your movies with a price less than 5. You see, in the back end, it's all JSON, right? So we are, and did you see any difference, right? It's plain interactive report behavior, just the data which this works on is all JSON. Also, other stuff, of course, will work, right? And I might regret that because trying out a highlight was just a spontaneous idea. So let's see whether I will regret that in a minute, right? So more than 5, and then that's the background color, and then price more than 5, right? Whew, did not regret. So all these things are working, and also stuff like aggregations, right? Charts, all that stuff simply works, right? Okay, what else do we have? So you can imagine if the JSON sources are available as a data source for an interactive report, it probably works the same way for an interactive grid. Or let's try to work with a form and report page, right? And I use the create page wizard for now. So let me again use an interactive report on JSON. Right, I want to have a form as well. Edit a movie, JSON source, and also I'm only working on the root level, right? I need a primary key column, it's pre-selected, right? So the Apex form still needs to identify the document. And now I get pretty much the same thing again. Here are all the others. So, and now let me pick up a movie. So let me just go with that, and let's try to edit this one, right? So that is The Godfather, the first one. So I get my form here, and let me just arrange the price a bit because it's not just acceptable, it's just in create condition. And you can see it works just like a relational thing, right? And I will show you, or let me show you this right now while waiting. You can imagine, right, if somebody spends a bit more time on such an application and not just spitting a component out here and there, this could actually look pretty good, right? So, and I spent a bit of time just before the office hours. So let me run this application, right? And here I have created a few pages which highlight that again. Again, a nicer interactive report. And let me just go with the first one. And what I also added here is a view on the raw data, right? So this is what's actually stored in the table. We have seen that before. So let's do that again, right? And once we have nice form elements, this is, for instance, cool. So the genres are just, we close that, this is a JSON array, right? So when we edit that movie, we can see it's an LOV. Oh, what did I need to do to get that data into an LOV? Oh, let's have a look. What did we do? So here are the genres, right? It's the select many, the new select list type. And here you can see the super complex thing I need to set up, right? Where is the source? Here is the source, right? Oh, it comes from the form region, edit a movie. The form region, edit a movie is created on the JSON source. That's it, right? And it has an LOV. Right there, I've created a shared component LOV. And this is the really cool stuff. So where is it? Now I can't find it anymore. Ah, there we are. Multiple values. The JSON array type is used. I didn't need to do any coding, right? It's a nested array. I just hooked up the LOV properly and things just work, right? The shared LOV is also working on a JSON source. And oh, let's have a look into that as well, right? right? Here we can see the shared LOV I created, guess what, on a JSON source. And similar to REST data sources, we can use post-processing attributes for JSON source. So the JSON data does not quite look as you need it in your app. Oh, not a problem, right? Use post-processing. You might have used that before for REST data sources and adjust the data how you need it, right? It's all really, you can use the right pieces of code to get your task done, right? Okay, so let's go back to the page again. Oh, wait a second, where do I need? This is the with full screen mode. I never get this, right? So now we are back. Right, so again, let's have a look into this. So, and if I now change the genres for that one, let me just bring those two in. And then we can adjust the price. And here, my new create one, and then have a look at the starring. But let me first save that. Right, price changed, condition changed. Right, you have seen that before. The genres, oh, they are not visible here in the report. So let's have a look. Yeah, it's what I did before. Create a new one. Well, Apex, Office, Hours, Movie. Obviously from this year, right? The 4 episodes about the new features of the great Apex 24.2. Right, genres. Oh boy, what genre is that? Action is clearly action, right? And no, I won't pick anything else. So the price, 15 format. Oh, we are coming for clear out as Betamax. Condition is what else than great. And now let's go to the starring. And Jason clearly is starring here, and Monica also. And let me create that. Right. Did it really create my movie? Oh, yes, it did. Right. And I only filled out a relational, a plain Apex form, and see what it did, right? It generated the JSON which we want according to our data profile, which is how the others also look like, right? We can adjust the starring, and this is an interactive grid. Right, it's an interactive grid. So who else? We have Steve here, right? So I can adjust that as well, and you can see the other element came in here, right? So, and when we have a look at this interactive grid, how much amount of code did we edit here? So here is the interactive grid, and as you can see, again, it's on a JSON source. And now I went down into the starring, and we need to have a little bit of local post-processing, right, to avoid unnecessary rows being shown, right? And it's, besides that, a plain interactive grid. When I save stuff, here is my form process. Here is my interactive grid process, right? Pretty much declarative stuff. The decade, right? So these JSON documents are funny, right? Because they have redundancy. Let me show you. Here is the redundancy, right? There is a year and there is a decade, right? Which is, I learned once at university, this is redundant, right? So I didn't add a form field, but I wanted to have it. So what did I do? I used a plain Apex standard computation to compute the decade, and I hit the field from my form, so it's populated automatically, right? So just all plain normal Apex stuff. And what else can we show? We have dashboards. So if we can create a report on a JSON source, we can create a chart or multiple charts on a JSON source as well. And you can already imagine how this looks like. It's 4 chart regions, right? All created on top of a JSON source. Here is one. And we have a column mapping, and that's it, right? Movies by format, JSON source, column mapping, that's it. Movies by condition, So this is getting boring now, right? So this is all super easy. Faceted search, it works as well. So only movies from the 90s, right? On VHS. And what is this? Price and the expensive one, right? Just as faceted search does work. And we have search configurations, right? The search functionality. So I want to search all over the movie data, and I want to have a nice UI. So there are our Godfather movies, right? And here is our Apex movie, right? Just plain standard stuff. And here is our search page with the search region, the search source, uses a search configuration in shared components. And when I edit that component, we see that the search configuration is created just declaratively on the JSON source. So you can build Apex applications just on JSON data, just as it was tables. And I wouldn't expect anybody to start building applications only on JSON anymore. I think the real fun in this is when we start to think about mixed stuff, right? So of course you will continue using our relational data models for sure, right? But some data might come into our data models in JSON. And then it's nice that we have abilities to just build components on top of that, right? A JSON column in an existing relational table. That's what JSON sources. So when we create a JSON source, right, and you would use the JSON collection table, let me quickly show you the dialog at least. No, the table with JSON columns. So this would be on 19C, right? So, and when I now pick that one, so, and now a table with JSON columns could have even multiple. So you can hook up to 3 columns with JSON data here. Here it only finds 1. Again, I could upload the JSON schema. Hit next. We have seen that before, right? Same thing. And there we are again, right? So, and you can use that 19C JSON source the same way as the JSON collection table. All the Apex functionality is there and works the same way. We hooked up duality views and JSON sources for all the components which today support. We always say components which support data sources, right? So that is all the components in Page Designer, that is automations, that is search configurations, lists of values, and report queries. I didn't even add a demo for that. So we could have even a report query. So if you wanted to build PDF from the JSON, then you can create a report query on top of that and then hook up your JSON source and export your movies to PDF using report query. It's everywhere, right? And let me have a look. And in the last few minutes, right, as you now have seen what we all did, I would like to at least show some, so somebody, I hope there is at least a few in here who would like to see how this is built. So parts you already have seen. So how are we building that the JSON data comes out nicely as a report? Let me turn on debug to show you that, but you know it already, right? Julian has shown it, by the way, right? We are using database functionality. This is where this all comes together, right? Apex didn't implement own JSON store. We are using what Beda and Julian showed before, right? And here we can see what we do. This is the interactive report query, right? Which has the search part, which has the JSON table somewhere over here, right? There we go. There it is, right? So Apex takes care about all of that. Also might be funny is how are they doing these updates, right? So we obviously updating the JSON content. So let me try that. Oh, we had an office hours movie last year as well. So let's have a look. Here is what the form region did when I hit the save button. So, and there we are, right? This is, and you don't need to bother with that, right? Apex does it for you, and Apex uses the right thing uses the right thing to execute a JSON transform. It uses the right database functionality to do the piecewise updates in the JSON document. So we are using just the standard functionality provided by the Oracle database, and that allows us to indeed build such cool functionality on top of JSON data, right? Oh boy. So okay, with that, let me give back to Jason.
Thank you, Carsten. That was just simply fantastic. I cannot believe how much we're packing into Apex with each new release. Simply fantastic that all this is coming together and making the developers' lives so much easier in putting these otherwise really complex business logic approaches to using data and everything else in Apex with low code, if not even no code, in many examples that you're able to demonstrate here today. And thank you to our special guest, Julian and Beda, for talking more about the back end of Oracle Database and how all these features add up to what you see today in Apex that Carsten showed. I mean, without the support, obviously, of what database is capable of doing and the continuous innovation and new features that are coming with each release of Oracle Database, Apex wouldn't be going anywhere anyway. And just remember, Apex is a no-cost feature of every Oracle database on premises or cloud, and even in multi-cloud. So we've had a good time answering all your questions. We see over a dozen have been asked and answered. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to visit our forum on apex.oracle.com/forum. And also, if you want to look at any of the recordings that have been posted for previous office hours, we have a whole bunch of replays. This video will be processed and the one previous will be processed and available in the coming couple weeks. So hands-on labs are continuously being worked on. We're just very excited to have you here to get the latest and greatest of all these features and how they come together in Apex. And with all that, again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our panelists answering the questions, and you, the community, being here to be part of all this exciting growth that we're having with Apex and its adoption across the world. Thank you all very much, and we all hope you have a great week. Bye-bye, everyone.